Welcome to the Move with Motus Podcast. My name is Dr. Christopher Ellis, and joining me is personal trainer John Williams. We are the owners of Motus Personal Training and Physiotherapy. Together, we will discuss any topic you can think of when it comes to training and rehab. From the carnivore diet to hip impingement, you can be sure that all your questions will be answered. Enjoy this week's episode.
What was I going to say?
I don't know.
So we're doing LDL?
LDL.
Misunderstood thing.
Totally. It's unfortunate. When I was in PT school, we learned, LDL is bad and HDL is good. Like, that's the simplistic model. The higher the HDL, the better. The lower the LDL, the better. It's like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, why does our body produce something that's bad for us?
Let's talk about the difference between the two, because my small monkey brain does not hold all this information.
Yeah, so let me just start by saying that that's what we learn as PTs, unless things have changed in the medical doctorate world. That's what they learn too. Just get LDL as low as possible. And as with just about everything, it's more nuanced, more subtle. There's a lot more players involved. And that, I think, has led to some really bad dietary advice, unfortunately. And Americans are getting fatter, sicker, diabetes, stroke, that's all increasing. And I think a lot of it has to do with a wrong piece of advice here.
Yeah, and we have so much information now. Like, we have so much knowledge, yet we're becoming less and less healthy over time. I saw a crazy visual that showed obesity rates in the United States over the past 40 or 50 years. And it's just these dark colors on this map that just engulf the whole thing by the time we get to 2021. It's really unfortunate to see.
Yeah, it's terrible. And I think a big part of it is this LDL piece. So LDL, low density lipoprotein, HDL, high density lipoprotein. So that's what people refer to as cholesterol, but that's a misnomer. It's not even cholesterol. So cholesterol comes from our food, and it's a very necessary thing. We need cholesterol. So cholesterol in itself is not bad. Everyone thinks, oh, cholesterol is bad. No, that's not correct.
Let's talk about why we need cholesterol real quick.
So cholesterol is good. You need cholesterol. It builds it basically supports life. You need cholesterol. LDL and HDL are simply a molecule that transports the cholesterol. All right. So what happens? You eat food. It turns into the cholesterols are packaged into what's called a chylomicron, and then it exits the liver, and then it becomes like there's a couple stages, but it eventually becomes LDL, and it goes around delivering its contents to tissues. There's a little receptor on all your cells that recognize the LDL because of this protein that sits on the surface of the cell. So the protein is called ApoB. It doesn't really matter, but it's like a key card. It goes to the receptor of all your cells, and it sees that ApoB protein and says, okay, I recognize you, and it allows the cholesterol to be emptied into those tissues. That's the normal process. So what happens often is that protein is damaged. And once it's damaged, the receptors don't see it or don't recognize it and don't allow the cholesterol to be delivered. So that's bad because now your tissues are missing the necessary cholesterols. And it's also bad because now the LDL is circulating. And this is where you run into a problem. Then the immune system sees, okay, I don't recognize this substance. And macrophages come in there and attack it. And that's the stuff that aligns the arteries and causes heart attack, stroke, and death. It's not LDL. It's damaged LDL. Oxidized is the word.
Yep.
So what oxidizes it? A diet high in processed sugars and industrial seed oils, AKA the standard American diet. So, and then unfortunately, the advice is usually, reduce your LDL by using canola oil or margarine instead of butter, because it does reduce your LDL by lining the LDL in your arteries. So it's a very simple answer. It's like a very symptomatic treatment. That's not looking at the problem. The problem is it's damaged. It's not like it's just circulating. So bring it down by putting it into your arteries. That's the wrong answer. The right answer is don't put vegetable oils and a lot of sugar into the system and stop damaging your LDL.
Now, what is the difference between processed sugars and the sugars that we get from fruit? Do you know? It's okay if you don't.
Yeah, simple sugar versus complex. I mean, that's the easy answer. I'd probably even argue that a very high carb diet would probably also do this. So I don't want to get too nuanced by all the differences between simple and complex carbs. But clearly the simple processed ones will do more damage faster.
Hmm.
But I do think the vegetable oils are the bigger problem. I think you could have a diet high in carbs, maybe even simple sugars, and have no vegetable oils, and you might be okay. Sugar does this thing called glycation, which partially damages the LDL. It's the vegetable oils that really sort of oxidize it and make it really toxic. So so let me go back to that. I think you could have a diet high in carbs without vegetable oils, and you'd be fine. But it's not the other way around. I don't. You could have a low carb diet, but still have vegetable oils, and you'd still be in trouble. So I think of the two, the vegetable oils is the really big one to get away. Avoid like it's cancer, because it basically is.
So let's talk about, give us the few of the most common vegetable oils that we use, and then what would you use as a substitute?
You can always Google Hateful Eight. That's Kate Shanahan's term for it. She's an MD. She's a nutritionist who's really pioneering this whole thing. So she came up with a list of 8 to avoid. So Google Hateful Eight vegetable oils. So some of the ones on that list, I don't have them all memorized.
Here, let me pull it up and I'll read it for the people.
Well, okay. Well, I'll tell you right now: corn oil, canola oil, safflower oil, soybean oil, grapeseed oil, rice bran oil, and there's like 1 or 2 I'm missing there. But basically, if you have to apply heat to get oil out of something, it's an unstable molecule, and those are the vegetable oils I'm talking about. So you can cold press an olive and oil comes out. That's fine. That's totally fine. It's when you have to apply industrial levels of heat to a seed to get the oil out, that's where it becomes damaged and wreaks havoc in our bodies. It was originally I think Procter and Gamble started the whole process with that, and I think they produced it to become a machine lubricant. That's its history. And then it made its way into our food. And here we are, decades later, dying.
And so we should be focusing more on olive oil, butter.
I'd say butter. I mean, I think olive oil, if you want to put a little bit on your salad, that's fine. I wouldn't really cook with it because you run the risk of oxidizing it by cooking it. So I would definitely use butter or ghee, lard, animal-based products, basically.
Yeah, I always put some olive oil on the top of my vegetables to saute them, but I can just do it all in butter. There's no reason not to.
Yeah, I think butter's totally fine.
So I'll tell you my general diet rule that I came up with recently. Because I have to admit, I feel really good lately. I'm a little bit hungry because I'm trying to lose weight, like I said. But I feel like fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Like I used to have stomach problems because actually chicken was a big piece of it. But also just, didn't always eat what I should, and just through the process of elimination, I found out, what works for me. My workouts are great. No weird like joint aches or pains, nothing like inflammatory. And so my current, base strategy is high fat meats, grass fed if I can, but I don't. So that's a conversation for another day. Dark leafy greens, and then my carbs are fruit. So I've even eliminated like pasta from my diet, even though I was doing like whole grain. I still don't care. I think I'm just going to take that out because honestly, I feel actually a little bit better without it.
Yeah, I think you're in a good spot. That's a pretty clean diet there. I would throw in some collagen. So that's like eating meat off the bone or making some bone broth. It's really good for your connective tissue. And so many problems are connective tissue oriented. Ligaments. I think I told you I tore my meniscus playing soccer in my backyard with my son, and I just drank bone broth like every day for a month, and it completely resolved. Now, maybe I was lucky. Maybe it would have resolved on its own anyways, but I mean, there's a lot of connective tissue in bone broth. So I would add, some more collagen in there.
Now, do you just mean like eating ribs? Because I can eat ribs.
Yeah, meat off the bone. You're going to get some collagen. Ideally, you crack it open and suck the marrow out too. But That's not for everybody. And then, a lot of people, so I mentioned Kate Shanahan. She's got a really good approach. She calls it the 4 pillars. So her 4 pillars are fresh food. That's where you get your antioxidants. Meat cooked on the bone. That's where you get your connective tissue and joint health. Sprouted and fermented foods. That's for gut health and your immune system. And then organ meats. That's the one I was missing. The powerhouse of vitamins and minerals. So that I think is a pretty good approach that I think most people are going to thrive on. I just personally don't do vegetables, but that's my choice.
Hey, now, so you mentioned Paul Saldino had a heart palpitation. Did he discuss what that was from? Because I feel like it might be relevant to this LDL conversation, but maybe not.
His analysis of it was a electrolyte imbalance, and by adding fruits back in, he sort of normalized that.
That makes sense. So he's doing fruit, but not vegetables.
Right. Yep. I think vegetables are fine. I think it depends on the person. Some people are going to have some reactions to some vegetables, and some people seem to not. So I just think it's very individualized.
Well, and I think he probably makes because his one of his arguments was always, plants have these defensive mechanisms in forms of chemicals that you don't necessarily always want to be consuming, even in really low doses over a long period of time, might cause some damage. But fruits are actually meant to be eaten. Like that's the whole reason why plants encase their seeds in fruits so that animals eat them and then they displace the seeds. So it's still in line with his, I think, baseline philosophy.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, he always says, there's a spectrum, especially with vegetables. There's a spectrum of toxicity. There's some things that are very, very benign, like a cucumber, So, and yeah, I think he would agree that fruits are a-okay.
All right, this was informative. I'm gonna have to listen to this one again, because that cholesterol conversation just comes up so frequently, and I'm always like beating my head into a wall because I don't have the answer, but I know they're wrong.
The answer is damaged LDL is bad. Oxidized LDL is bad, right?
Yep.
Regular LDL. So LDL in the presence of a good diet without a whole bunch of sugar and vegetable oils is good.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do ketogenic diet or carnivore or something like that, your LDL is going to go up. But as long as you're not ingesting all these vegetable oils, that's fine. In fact, so there is different tests you can do. So your standard blood test is not going to look at the differences between the LDL, because you can do like a pattern A and pattern B type of test, which is a little more pricey because they got centrifuge and all that stuff. That is a test you can get. I wish I knew the name of the test. That will tell you if you've got damaged LDL or not. But if you just have a standard blood test, you can take your triglycerides and divide it by your HDL, and that'll give you a good indication of where you stand. So if that number is below 2, you're in a good position. If it's above 4, you're in a bad position. So you can get sort of a general sense of your cardiovascular health by that little equation. Triglycerides divided by HDL, less than 2, good. Greater than 4, bad.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I think this was really helpful. It was informative. Taught me a lot, and also just proved that I'm right. So that's all that matters.
You're always right, John. And I just want to say this too, because a lot of people, I tell this to them, they're like, "Oh, well, I only use olive oil." Yeah, but do you eat anything that comes in a package? Right? If you look at the packages of anything that's got a list of ingredients, I would say 90% of these foods are going to have some form of vegetable oil in it. Like I would say it's in most brands of almond milk have vegetable oil in it.
Yep.
Hummus has it. I mean, it's just everywhere. It's insane. So yeah.
Well, and so often I just think about what foods am I eating that people created and were not originally in the environment. Like a huge staple in so many people's diets is bread and pasta. That came from us. We made that up. Like the percent chance that our body was anticipating this change is probably really low. So it's probably not the best thing for us to be eating is breads and pasta.
It's like the majority of the grocery store is not even real food.
No, there's a bread aisle. There's a pasta aisle, and it's filled with pasta, and then the other aisle's filled with bread.
I basically go into one aisle to get coffee, and that's about it. Which is even, you could probably argue. We even argued about this one. Probably not the best bet, but I did switch to organic just for you.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh,
go for it.
You mentioned chicken, so I wanted to say something about that too, because everyone considers chicken to be really healthy.
Causes death.
Totally. Now, the thing is, because what we feed chicken and pork too, by the way, which is not a species appropriate food, a lot of corn and soy, they tend to have higher levels of uh, omega-6. So these vegetable oils are called polyunsaturated fatty acids. Omega-6 is basically linoleic acid, to be specific. So chicken and pork tends to be a little too high in those omega-6s, unfortunately. So I don't even really eat that much chicken anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I would go all steak. I don't really care.
That's what I do.
Pork's cheaper. I want to make the transition to grass fed. It's just a price bump. So in a few years, I'll be there.
Yeah, you should. It's the same deal. You gotta look at what they're eating, because that those food sources that they're eating are going to end up in their tissues, obviously, right? So if they're fed corn and soy, they're going to just have higher levels of omega-6.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, you made a good point about like going through one of the aisles in the grocery store to like get coffee. There's not much. If you want to really be a healthy person, there's not much in those aisles that's worth getting. You might have to go into one to get some like spices.
Herbs are fine.
Yeah, since I eliminated the pasta, like that was the only thing I'd go into an aisle for was pasta. I would grab some olive oil, but maybe I won't even be doing that. But I just go grab spices. And now, like the last time I went to the grocery store, the only reason I went to an aisle is to grab a spice.
Yeah, toilet paper. That's it.
Yeah, actually, I guess there's other things in there,
and we should all switch to bidets. By the way, it's way better for the environment. It's cleaner, by the way, way cleaner. And then when there's a pandemic and everyone panic buys, you don't have to worry.
That is a good point, man. I've been thinking about single-use plastics and papers quite a lot recently. And we should regulate out all single-use plastics. I mean, I can't think of a single-use plastic that's beneficial, like bags. Dude, bring a bag.
I know.
Water bottle.
I hate it when I go to the grocery store.
My Yeti every single minute.
I hate it when I go to the grocery store and maybe I'll get like two things. And they put it in a plastic. I don't need a bag. I got two hands. I can carry that. No problem. Like, don't wait. Why? It's just it's like a reflex for, the grocery stores to do that. I just think it's bad. And then paper, like, what drives me crazy? Why is it still legal to have first spam, like paper
junk
mail? Yeah. Like, so much waste there.
That should be unbelievably illegal.
Yeah.
Like, you just get all these credit card companies like send you credit cards, like pre-approved credit cards. Like, dude, stop. You just send me 10 of these things.
Yeah. Email me. I'll just delete it there.
Exactly. Like, you don't have to kill these trees for this.
It's crazy. But all right, I gotta run, John.
Sounds good, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Later. Do you have unexplained pain? Or do you wonder just how healthy you are? When was the last time you had your blood tested? Blood chemistry analysis is a great way to stay ahead of any health conditions, and now you can have control of your health with Let's Get Checked. Let's Get Checked is an incredible company that sends blood tests to your home. You can choose from over 30 different tests, whether that's liver function, testosterone, micronutrient, cholesterol, or C-reactive protein, which is a marker for inflammation. It's sent to you with free shipping, and you get results in 2 to 5 days, no physician referral needed. Use the code DPT20 for 20% off. Go to letsgetchecked.com and use the code DPT20. Thanks for listening to our podcast. If you have any questions you want answered, find us on Instagram at Motus Naples or send us an email. You can fill out a contact form on our website, which is motusnaples.com. Make sure to check out our blog and our shop as well, where there are downloadable programs that we'll continue to update. This is the Move with Motus podcast. We'll see you next week.